Hello, friends. Robert Bevitt here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the spell Tsunami. All right, Sam. This is an 8th level spell, right?
8th level druid spell. This is an 8th
Druid.
level damaging druid spell, which are words you like to hear.
All right, yeah. Well, what does it do?
Okay. This is casting time of a minute, which is weird.
Yeah.
It requires range of sight, concentration for up to 6 rounds. I'm pretty sure in my written review I brushed over the cast time, which means I probably should revise that because I was assuming this took an action. It doesn't. It takes a minute, which makes this a lot harder to use. But anyway, for 6 rounds, a wall of water springs to existence. You can make the wall up to 300 feet long, 300 feet high, and 50 feet thick. So it's huge. It's like a football field in length, a football field in height, and 50 feet thick. So, crazy. It lasts for the 6 rounds. When the wall appears, each creature in the area makes a strength save. On a failed save, it takes 60-10 bludgeoning damage, half as much on a pass. So already the damage is pretty fine. Subsequently, at the start of each of your turns after the wall appears, the wall, along with all creatures in it, move 50 feet away from you. Any huge or smaller creature inside the wall whose space the wall enters as it moves away from you makes a strength save or takes 5d10 bludgeoning damage. And then it makes the save only once per round. At the end of each turn, the wall's height goes down by 10 feet, and the damage reduces by a d10. So the idea is first round is 60-10, and that's the first round. Second is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the wall is gone. As it decreases in height, decreases
as it keeps going, do the creatures keep moving?
Yep.
All right.
Well, they can, because it also says a creature caught on the wall can move by swimming. Because of the force of the wave, though, it makes a strength save against your spell save DC and never to move at all. So the wall kind of grapples them and moves them with it. If it does pass, though, it can swim in the terrain, and the creature that moves out of the area falls to the ground. This spell has a lot of words. I am unsure of its actual usability because of that minute-long cast time.
Yeah, the only situation I'm seeing this, applicable is if you're, on a wall where you can see an approaching army coming, and they don't know that somebody's going to cast Tsunami. So you got a minute, and you can push them back and take out a significant number of them. I guess that's, but I don't know. Go on.
I'm a little. So I'm personally bamboozled just because my first impression of this spell whenever I had read it a few times over, normally like I skim through because you see like one and then a thing, and as long as it doesn't say bonus, you could probably just assume it's an action. A lot of times you'll have like minute long cast times, but for a damaging spell like this, I was like, oh, okay, this is just action, big wave, deal a bunch of damage. And in the scenario where it just takes an action to cast, Tsunami's a perfectly serviceable spell. The spell is entirely fine. It's neat. You could do some cool things with it where like you slam it down, it hits a bunch of creatures running at you, and it is kind of like a one-time big shove because the moment things start saving it, they can move through it, and then, well, if they have a fast enough swim speeds, or can just leave it on the left or right of it, right? It was a pretty neat high power fantasy for the waterbending druid. You had a bunch of damage. If things ever got carried with it, taking 6, 5, and 4 d10 damage with 3 failed strength saves, I mean, that's doing 15 d10 damage. That's hitting like a bus, which it should be, right? Like that's the spell slot you're spending on it.
Spell,
yeah, you're doing a lot of really cool things. I can't fathom then why it takes a full minute to cast because, like you just said, I guess you use it against an incoming army, and that's about it. Like you do this whenever you see the room full of cultists from up on the balcony, and you spend a minute to cast Tsunami, and then a big wave hits them all. I guess, which that's not that powerful. Granted, this is 300 feet tall, so like if you're out on open waters, being able to sink a boat with it seems pretty decent. It's 300 feet tall, so you can this will hit a lot of things, even on the shore. It's just I think it's almost entirely gutted in its actual use case because of the stupid casting time.
Yeah, that is really weird. I mean, for an 8th level spell, I mean, it seems appropriate. 8th level is up there, and yeah, don't do that.
Sage advice from Bob, as usual. So it also is with Meteor Rain coming next level for wizards, and Fireball doing like comparable damage even in the upcast. Like you have to get a lot of hits with this for it to outdamage Fireball. It's just a real bummer that it's uncastable because there's gonna be I can't like in the games that I personally run, when you would want big damaging spells like this, when you want big spells that affect a lot of creatures, normally it's whenever negotiations fail, and negotiations usually fail, and the spontaneous fight that breaks out. There aren't a lot of instances in D&D, at least not in the tables that I play with, where you're very consistently setting up a plan, getting into position, waiting for a minute, and then the plan starts. And that's what the spell really wants you to do. It helps at its range of sight, so it's like this could just be a means of evil terror if you've got a
Oh, it's got a range of sight?
Yeah, you just need to see the spot you're conjuring it.
That makes a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I think it ends up being more of like a DM tool then, right? Where you have an angry storm giant that's like, this city is actually the worst, and I hate its existence, so I'm just gonna throw tsunamis at it until someone comes and deals with me. Which, yeah, sure, it's gonna kill a lot of commoners, and I guess it's a way to give your players an easy plot hook. It's hard to argue for the storm giant destroying a town with tsunamis and killing a bunch of people. There's context and stuff, but that seems like a strong.
I could also see this as a tool for if you think you might be in a city that's under siege, and that happens, then yeah, approaching army. Yeah, I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, a gazillion orcs coming. You filter some out.
Yeah, a 300 by 300 block chunk of them just plow right through it. Yeah. I just don't. I stand by. I don't think that's going to be that common. Again, especially with adventuring trends. Like, I don't know how much the City Siege fantasy is in every game. I've used it once in my 10 years doing this, so that isn't a ringing endorsement for the use of the spell. You could also like conceivably, if you're like at the big bad's lair and you see the guards and you've done the scouting out, if you want to blow an 8th level spell slot on an explosive entry, this will do it. Man, I really wanted to spend more time talking about like how neat it is that it kind of grapples and moves things and like the implications in combat that could have, but you can't cast this in combat.
Well, not. I mean, by the time it works, you'll be in combat.
Sure. If you see like that, I mean, that could on its own be a fun little mini game, right? Maybe you're playing with like 5th level characters or 6th level characters, and you find this archdruid that needs protected, so it can cast the tsunami to get rid of all the fire elementals or whatever, to end the encounter. And then you protect it for a minute, and then you get a huge tidal wave that pushes the sway of battle towards you, and like you get this neat little fun mini game kind of event. I can't imagine if you are a 15th level or higher character going like, yeah, I think a fight's gonna break out. You know what? I'm gonna sit down for a minute and see what happens. Like, no, you're just gonna cast a more powerful, more relevant spell than this. You're just gonna do wild shape nonsense. You're just gonna start like calling lightning or whatever. Like, there's way better ways to open a fight than trying to spend a minute to cast a tidal wave, which again is like, it's neat. It isn't like better than. It's not so much better than other evocation and damaging stuff that like it's worth the cast or anything. I don't know, Bob. It disappoints me across the board.
Yeah, well, you brought 2 observations to my eyes. First was the casting time, which was disappointment. Second was the range of sight, which makes the casting time seem a little bit better. Yeah, again, the only way I'm thinking of using this is in like a siege situation where you have eyes on an approaching army, and you cast this, and then they see what the results are, and they decide, all right, do we want to keep approaching this?
Yeah, that's I think that's a very niche example, unfortunately, and for that reason, I think this spell is close to uncastable. I think there will be a handful of instances at most in a game where you'll be wanting to both spend your 8th level, because you get 1 8th level slot, right, for a long rest. So you wanting to spend your 1 8th level slot for a minute to hit things that you can see for that long, right? There'll be a few times. There'll be times like out of combat when you're like, you know what, that little town of goblins that gave us the finger and made a bunch of rude gestures towards us, and let's just sink that real quick. Out of spite, sure. It might be the kind of thing that you bust out whenever, again, maybe the villain's lair is like entirely exposed. It's like some big ritual circle in the middle of a swamp or whatever, and you're like, I mean, we can see it, right? Tidal wave. That could be a decent way to approach. It's just these circumstances are so niche and like case by case. It helps that druids are prepared casters. So if you're in that environment, you'd be like, great, I'll just tidal wave them all to death. I wish it could do that and be used in combat as a cool, powerful thing to do, because it's, again, 9th level slot, and druids deserve to do some cool, powerful things that do damage. And this could be one of them, but it's not.
Now here you are trying to argue against it, and you're giving me more reasons why it's useful. I didn't even think about using it. I was all about defense, but you thought, all right, there's a village. They don't know tidal waves coming. We're in the desert or something. Yeah, boom.
Sure. Domestic terrorism at its finest. Just lay waste to cities, towns, and peoples of all kinds. No problem whatsoever. It's really large. It goes
pretty. Could be evil people.
Sure, they could be evil people. It moves 50 feet each round, so it moves. It's basically a 300 by 300 by 300 area. Will eventually get hit by a tidal wave. Granted, the back half of that, of the last 300, is going to get hit less than the front half is. But this does decimate a gigantic area. So yeah, that's something.
Also,
I guess
irrigation.
Yeah, I can't wait for those crops. I'm sure they're fine. 6-10 bludgeoning damage never took a corn crop and meddled with it at all. You know what? I really think that the Dust Bowl could have
no, there's no crops. We're in the desert.
Oh, okay.
I'm seeing a tidal wave. This barren land. They needed the water.
I guess. Sure. Why not? It's a 8th level spell for create water en masse. I guess. Yeah, I'm really pulling a straw.
And like it plows the dirt a bit,
Sure. I guess.
Man.
No. This spell's awful. It's not like one awful. The spell's bad, but it at least is neat bad, and there are some cute circumstances where you're like, oh, I do get to play like the Wrath of Nature character. So that scores it some bonus points. I'm gonna give this a solid 2.
2. I'm gonna give it a 3. I think and in fact you talked me into this. I was ready for a 2 before, and then you said, oh yeah, it could also be used offensively. And I think it's got uses beyond, like many times, uses beyond what we've covered here. Commenters, let us know what you think.
Yeah, please. And tell us what level of beers, like how many he is that you could tell immediately. I need to know in the comments. Are we on 3 beers, 4 beers, or 5 beers? I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in that range, but
I have no idea. A tsunami of beers. Oh, you know what I didn't ask? There's another spell called Tidal Wave.
Tidal Wave is instantaneous, and that's way better, I think, because it's instantaneous. But
all right, we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, this has been Tsunami. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.